Everyone, welcome back to the Freshly Squeezed podcast. We had an intense game 7 last night, Pratik. 92-87 for the Boston Celtics. Got Toronto out of there in 7. What is the bottom line for the Raptors and the reason you don't think they couldn't get it done with the Celtics?
For being completely honest, turnovers, man. Just it hurt just constantly to watch those simple errors. And like you mentioned this before, is like how you were saying that the fatigue may not, hopefully it doesn't play a factor, but you were saying how, man, finally we saw it. It really did show up because we only have we were 7 deep mainly, aside from Matt Thomas getting 5 minutes versus the Celtics again spreading out their line a little bit better. They have 8 guys who were playing, or sorry, 9 guys who were playing for their team. So you could see it. The players were making errors, small errors where their passes, they were trying to do no looks, or they were just being sloppy and gave a quick turnover because one guy went for an ISO play, had to dish it back out, lost it. You know, Tough loss, man. I honestly, after yesterday, I wanted to blame it on Siakam, but I don't think I can do that. He had a tough game, but he's not the only reason, for being real.
Yeah, so a lot of people are putting the blame on Siakam, and obviously
Yeah.
this morning he's the quote unquote star player for this team, and it makes sense why they're going to come after him. He's the highest paid guy, and to have a
He's
game like
scapegoated.
that with 5 turnovers, obviously the team had 18 turnovers, led to 31 points.
Mm-hmm.
Just a huge gap in that category. It's hard to argue that wasn't the reason why we lost. And to exactly what you said, that's a direct result. Look, go to the root cause. That points to the minutes of our star players over the last 6 games, and
Mm-hmm.
and they've been at all-time highs, and it looks like it hasn't been affecting them up to that game 6 performance. Obviously they still came out with heat, and it looked like it wasn't because of a lack of effort for the Toronto
No,
Raptors last
definitely
night.
not. Definitely
And
not.
they put their heart to that game, and they put it all on the floor, and
Mm-hmm.
and they came up short, and they looked sloppy. It was that's what causes turnovers. They look tired and sloppy, and you make mistakes, and it was a key to the game. The commentators were saying going into the game, who's going to make less mistakes. And I think that's just how game sevens go. They always seem to come down to the wire. We've had 2 game sevens now in 2 years. Obviously the one with Kawhi shot, one of the most legendary shots last year, went our favor. This year, not so much. Didn't go our way this time. But it was just as close, a hard fought battle, and both of those games, I bring it up because they were both sloppy games. Like, you look at that game 7 for both teams, it's not a good look. It looked like slow, just gritty grind. It looks like both teams were just trying to find a way, and I feel like that's how these game sevens go. And
Yeah.
obviously you're high with emotion, and it can lead to a lot of mistakes.
Yeah, and speaking of which, the reason I have a lot of respect for Tatum is because of the way he carried himself through the series, and despite, a victory against the defending champions, he had really nice things to say about it. So I think we should throw in a little clip of Tatum, how he mentioned that he had to really earn his victory this time.
Um, like I said earlier, I got to tip my hat off to Toronto. They're the defending champs. They got a lot of heart, and they made us earn that. And I think um, when you're trying to achieve something as special as winning a championship, you're gonna have to go through some things, some heartbreaks, some tough moments, a lot of adversity, and just see how you respond. And I think we responded really well, from almost being up 3-0 to being tied 2-2 to 3-3 and coming into a must-win game. It was big, and I think it's just going to continue to help us moving forward.
And like, as a rookie, this kid is not gonna forget the Raptors, and like that being one of the hardest fought battles he's ever had. So, anyways, hats off to him, bro. We'll talk more about him later, but let's get more into Toronto. I guess let's talk more about individual players. So,
Yeah, so 5 turnovers for Siakam tonight. Obviously, that's the one thing we can harp on him, and everyone's going to look at him as the star of this team, and that's
Yeah.
unacceptable. But it wasn't just him tonight; it was everyone coming from everyone. And I thought, aside from those turnovers, Pascal actually had a great game. Maybe not a great game, but he had a better game than what he's been playing as. And 5 for 12 from the field. Made some free throws, 3 for 4 from the line, but a lot of those were near the end. And I thought as soon as he came out, he looked to be aggressive, and he wasn't settling for a shot. And massive props to him. He took one 3-pointer on the night; it didn't fall. But every other opportunity, he was attacking the basket, attacking the rim, getting to the free throw. He got to the free throw line twice. I mean, obviously, I think that could have been a higher number. It looked like there were some times when he kind of got hacked up a little bit going to the rim, but he looked to stay aggressive, and I thought it was everything we could have asked for from Pascal after what we've seen from him earlier in this series, and so that would be the one guy who I think obviously. Uh, Feel free to harp on him for turnovers, but you gotta do it to everyone else as well. We had 18 tonight. Three from Kyle, three from Van Vliet, three from Serge Ibaka. So they came from everywhere, and it was just it was evidence of us looking exhausted.
So I agree with you to a certain extent that in Game 7, Pascal is not the one to blame. He's getting scapegoated, but he's getting scapegoated because of his performance throughout the series. Because, I'm going to say this again, we wanted that 20-something point average for the series, but clearly we didn't get that. That could have been the difference between winning not Game 7, but another game down in the series, and that could have been a game changer, bro. Pascal, like obviously, like you said, we pay him big money because we after his renewal this year, um, and then also just the fact that after Kawhi left, yes, I know the expectation was that he's supposed to be Kawhi's replacement. I never had that expectation to begin with, and people were wrong to expect that. But I did expect him to be a breakout all-star. I wanted him to be an
Which he
all-star.
was during the regular
He
season.
was during the regular season, but postseason you can't say that about him. Maybe defensively, sure, I will not complain. Pascal was very good on defense, so thankfully, like that's the only reason I was okay with him on the floor was because so many plays where he had a negative offensive effort, he would come back and at least make a defensive play, right? Make sure that his turnover didn't cost him at least a bucket. So that was good, but that was like a trade-off for his own mistake. I mean, not all the time, but then again, man, 16 points is not enough, Lowry's been carrying the burden. He had quite a few showouts this whole Celtics series. Van Vliet's been quiet, and I know he's got a little shadow over him because of the focus on Siakam, but he hasn't been inefficient either. So yeah, I still do. I don't want to. Yeah, I don't like blaming Siakam, but I think overall in the series, he was sort of the weakest link.
Absolutely, he was. And the
Yeah.
question is, why was that? And I'm still holding out hope that after such a great regular season, he wasn't there as soon as the bubble came back, and he's been
hmm
missing from even the regular season games. So, missing all that time and coming back into this strange situation. They're stuck in hotels in Orlando, and I don't want to make excuses for the guy because everyone's dealing with the same conditions. Celtics are
Yeah.
dealing with the same thing. Everyone else in the bubble is dealing with the same thing, and it's the same conditions. But you don't know how it affects different people, and I think that we saw it kind of get the best of him, and he was ill prepared. I don't know what he was doing over his off time before the bubble, but he came into it very ill prepared,
hmm
and he didn't have that spark, that aggressiveness that we were hoping to see from him, and that we saw all season long. And so you got to compare it relatively, and the reason I think obviously we ended on a sour note last night, and
hmm
I was bringing this up to you earlier, but every 29 teams out of 30 are going to leave disappointed, in the NBA. You know, there's one team ultimately that gets to raise that
Right.
championship trophy. We came up to a tough Boston team. To your point, Tatum is absolutely impressive. He put on a great
Monster.
show. He was calm, cool, collected through this entire series, and he's everything you hoped your All Star to be. We saw this with Kawhi last year. He got the job done when their team needed him most. You know, 9 of 23 from the field, 23 shot attempts from your star. He had the
Yeah.
most on the team. That's what you expect from your star, right? Siakam only had 12 last night. So he took 8 threes. He went 4 for 8 from the three, Tatum, when his team completely struggled. As a whole, the team shot 9 of 38 from the
From the 3-point last night,
three-point
yeah.
line. So he made 4 of those 9 threes and only
Which
on
is
8 attempts.
huge. Yeah.
So he stepped up in a big way for that team. And I said that was in our podcast yesterday, previewing the game. You know, Jayson Tatum. To me, that's the key to the game. He's the superstar. He's going to have to step up.
Yeah.
I didn't give Siakam as the key to the game because what we saw from him all series, and we knew he wasn't going to be breakout performance. But yeah, that's what stars do. Stars find a way for their team to win the game.
Exactly.
And he came in and made the biggest play of all last night. It was down 2. They were missing free throws all night. It must have been, for Celtics fans, that must have been one of the most stressful nights in terms of they gave the Toronto Raptors every single opportunity to come back and fight in this game.
Yeah.
And Raptors weren't able to take advantage of it. You see at the end there, we were down 2. Who was it at the line? Was it Ojale or Wanamaker?
I think it was Ojale. And then he missed a shot, right?
Oh yeah, I forget who exactly was at the line there.
I remember
it was Grant Williams.
Oh, sorry, yeah, it was Grant Williams. Grant Williams had a lot of the last few minutes, yeah.
So Grant Williams was at the line. We're down 2 points, kind of last opportunity here. He misses both free throws. Jayson Tatum comes out of nowhere, grabs the rebound, gets fouled, and that was to ice the game. And
Yeah.
that's a winning play. You talk about those. That's a play usually you see from a guy like Kyle Lowry, right? Who
Yeah.
fouled out of the game. And
even when he made that play, all the players on the Raps were stunned. They were just like, "Wow, he just did that!" Like,
because they need to have him. You know, the
Yeah.
Raptors. You got to box out on that play. The fact that you
Yeah,
let
man.
him come in there.
see, this is not
and
okay.
grab
You
that
have
rebound.
their wing players, Jaylen Brown and Jayson Tatum, averaging almost a double-double a game. Why is that okay, man? And then, you have OG or you have Pascal interchanging or Ibaka interchanging a double-double. No, man. Pascal, double-double fat every game. You should be dropping like 15 rebounds a game. Because we don't have
yeah.
a 4 and a 5 who do that all the time. He he does play the 4 a lot of the time, right? So with Siakam doing that, we want to. So you know what? Let me just go over this guy's playoff numbers for this postseason. So tell me what you think, man. He shot 39% from the field goal. Like his field goal percentage was 39%, right? So 6 of 16.
You're
His
talking about Pascal?
Pascal. His 3-point percentage was 19%, bro. He attempted 53 threes and he made 10.
No, well, that's what we've been talking about all series.
That's
He's not the
ridiculous.
guy to be taking 3-pointers. You know, it's he has a decent percentage during the season, but they weren't falling from it. But that's to my point, man. Yesterday, that's why I give credit to him. He wasn't looking for that shot yesterday. He wasn't looking for that 3-point shot. He didn't settle. He got to the line and he drove to the rim. And aside from those turnovers, which were killer, I didn't think he played that great. But let's keep talking about the Celtics here because to your point, Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown. Jaylen Brown dropped 21, 8, and 2 last night. 10 for 17 from the floor. He wasn't hitting them from 3 like Tatum was. He
like
was
Tatum
1 for 7.
was.
He seemed very cold from 3, and he was
Right.
missing a lot of opportunities. But he found ways to get to the rim. Like I said, find ways to sneak in. There were a couple times where he grabbed rebounds off misses and made big plays. But he always seemed to be in the right place, and they got to spots earlier. Like there were times where they would just beat us to the spot on an offensive rebound, and that's another thing that was costly for us.
Exactly.
And so hats off to Boston. They deserved to win the series. Obviously, Toronto. We didn't bring it every game with those game 1, game 5 losses, and then all the mistakes we made yesterday in game 7.
Tough, yeah.
They were able to capitalize on them, and their stars stepped up and made winning plays. And that's exactly what you need from them. And hats off to Boston, and that's going to be a fun series to watch. Celtics versus Miami. It's going to be an interesting one. I'm excited to see how that goes down.
Indeed.
But
Man.
let's talk about Raptors now. Where do we go from here as a team? Obviously this season it's all relative. So let's start off with the expectations that we had at the start of last year, which were people thought we were done. Kawhi leaves the team after a championship run, left us without what people thought would be kind of a leaderless
Winning
team.
chance, yeah. Like,
A winning chance. We stepped up and made it a season. We had one of the best seasons, most fun seasons to watch that I think we've had ever. Like this
ever,
was,
yeah.
we had a
This was
30
like the
point
most
comeback.
organic Raptors team ever.
Masai gave us a chance to run it
Yeah.
back, and with
Yeah.
pickups like Matt Thomas and Hollis Jefferson and a great supporting cast.
Even the rookies, man, Terrence Davis and Boucher going off during the season. Obviously, we didn't see much of a playoff performance from them.
Yeah.
That's because when playoffs hit, anyways, the starters are playing max minutes. So that's with any team, But
Yep.
yeah, it was definitely incredible to see, bro. Let's see how some of these rookies turn out next year, because every year we see a major improvement amongst at least one or two players on our bench, and they sort of interchange roles. We sort of see more of a starting role from them, and then kind of becomes heavier and heavier from them. I'm kind of expecting, if Norman Powell stays, I want him to make a bigger impact.
Well, we know next year's not going to be our year. Just looking at it realistically, Boston just beat us, so they're going to be coming out strong next year. Tatum,
yeah.
we'll see how the rest of the playoffs goes, but they're going to hit their stride, and they're just hitting their stride now with Kemba Walker. And if that whole team comes back as is, we'll see where they go again this postseason, but they have a chance to make another run. Brooklyn Nets, they're getting Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving back. I don't know if anyone in the East is going to be prepared for that. That's just going to be silly. The Brooklyn Nets are going to be top of the league. They have a mountain of expectations on them, especially with Steve Nash as their new head coach. They just have all the eyeballs, and it's up to them to kind of take over that New York market. And I think New York fans might be ready to jump ship to a new team. And
Yes.
and Brooklyn's going to be
Instantly.
one hell of a team, right?
I don't even think they're jumping ship. They weren't even on the New York Knicks ship, man. Nobody's been on that ship for years.
Well,
Ship
people have been going down with the ship. You look at guys like, obviously, to commentator, their most notorious fan, I think, is Stephen A. Smith, and he's a guy who rides and dies with that team. But they have a lot of diehard fans, and they're one of the highest net worth organizations in the NBA. So,
Right.
So
Being a New York
that's just
team.
based off being in New York. But Brooklyn's not there yet, obviously. But they have the opportunity to steal those fans, and to that point, so keep on moving. Like other teams in the East, Milwaukee's still going to be a great team next year. Like realistically, are we going to be able to compete with them with whatever roster we put on the floor? Miami Heat obviously are making this run, so it's going to be a very competitive East. This is one of the best Eastern conferences we're going to have in a long time. And obviously LeBron James jumped ship, but we got KD and Kyrie.
Well, I think that really evens out the depth in the East and the West, because for a long time people were saying the West is just stacked with superstar teams, and the East is more of like a hard-fought battle, and then the East is often always the team that ends up being the underdog in the finals. So that may not be the case for next year. The Brooklyn Nets might come out swinging, being the absolute favorite. And like my expectation for the Nets is only that high. Besides KD and Kyrie, it's because of the fact that this whole year they just had their secondary starters and their bench players play max minutes and just develop. Now you have guys like Karis LeVert, who could be a starting player for a team. You have guys like Garrett Temple, who's disgusting at the three-point line. Like, man, they're getting deep. Jared Allen doubling all the time.
Joe Harris.
Joe
Yeah, a lot of
Harris.
guys. A lot of
And then,
guys.
and then you mix in Kyrie and Durant. Tell me how they're not going to be the craziest 3-point shooting force in the East by
No,
far.
they're gonna be unbelievable, and so that's to the point. Like where do the Raptors go from here?
Yeah, from here.
So obviously, I don't think we're gonna be that competitive. We're not gonna fall off as a playoff team.
Definitely not.
But how are we going to match up? I think we're going to be competing in the middle of the East there with Indiana and Phillies,
Yeah.
and we'll see how the roster if it relatively stays the same. But it's all about developing our young guys from here and kind of waiting out to that 2021 free agent class where
Well, I have a
maybe we
question
can
for
make some
you.
pickups.
Like, do you think that Masai is going to jump ship with Pascal?
No, absolutely not. No,
Because
and
all
there's
you
no
see
reason.
again,
No.
the Raptors fans are a little crazy sometimes, but already you see a lot of trade Siakam. Um,
No, those people don't know what they're talking about. Do you think they should trade Siakam?
I don't know. It's like a toss up. I think that he still deserves a chance to prove himself. You cannot just dismiss a player because he had
Absolutely,
one
he
bad
does.
postseason.
No,
So
absolutely, he does.
yeah, no way, man.
No, that's silly. He's.
It was a large
I think
expectation. I think that next year he would. I personally have full faith that he would come out real strong against Boston if he got to face them again. Give him a year.
Well,
Yeah,
I mean, it's going to be interesting. Like,
it
if
is
we
gonna be
have to play
interesting.
Boston again next year, I don't really like that matchup as currently constructed. I think we're good. The changes are going to come at the center spot, in my opinion.
Yeah,
Gasol, his contract's done this year, and
yeah.
that's a
Gasol's on a
big
1 year
change we
again.
can make, right? So, I mean, he had the player option coming into the season, so he's done, and I don't know what we're gonna do with him. I don't see us keeping him around. I
Yep.
think he was great for us in that championship run and exactly what we needed, that veteran experience alongside Kawhi and the rest of the team. But he's proved himself to be a guy that we don't need him around, and
Yeah.
it'll be interesting to see what we do with him. Maybe he can take a massive pay cut because we were paying him around $26 million, something around that number. So he obviously heavily paid for the production he was giving us. And so that's going to be interesting to see what we can do at the center spot. But everywhere else, we've got Van Vliet, who's our point guard. That'll be interesting to see how man, are we gonna show him the bag?
Yeah.
So maybe this is something we can talk about in a future podcast. But where they go in terms of what roster moves we can make if we're gonna give Van Vliet the bag, what we're gonna do at our center spot. So there's a lot of question marks
A lot
going
of
into our
question marks,
offseason
yeah.
and a lot of uncertainty on what we're gonna look like next year.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll be fun. It'll be fun.
Yeah.
I'm hoping it ends up and we surpass expectations almost every year, and I hope that's where we end up again next year.
Again next year, yeah.
It's a lot of
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah, and honestly, I trust in Masai, so let's see. I think he always comes up with some pretty good moves. If
Best
not to make them
turnover.
championship
Yeah.
contenders, at least make them like ECF contenders. So
Yeah.
he knows what he's doing. But anyways, shout out to the Raptors. Great freaking season, man. Amazing playoff series. Shout out to the Celtics for winning. Yeah, it
Now
was a
we're
good
moving
dub.
on.
Now we're
Now
moving on.
Let's we'll come to you guys with more podcasts about what's
Yeah.
going on in the rest of the league. Obviously, we got a lot to look forward to still. A lot of basketball to play to see who lifts that Larry OB. So we'll come to you with the Boston Heat matchup
Yes.
preview, and then it looks like it's going to be the Battle of LA over there.
Yeah,
Let's
I
see if
know.
the Lakers can close it out tonight, and the Clippers got their hands full with Jamal Murray and them boys.
Jamal
So
Murray.
it'll be a
Can
fun
Jamal Murray
series.
make the 3-1 comeback again? I don't know.
Again, that would be man
That'd
if
be
they do
insane,
that.
bro.
And this is speaking to kind of what we saw. Like this is the 3 and the 5 seed going into the East, Eastern Conference Finals. So to that point, we didn't know who was gonna. this bubble environment is kind of throwing everything off,
Yeah.
and seeing teams like Milwaukee and obviously Toronto, the 1 and 2 seeds are gone. Usually basketball is a sport where you see 1 and 2 seed consistently in the East, and then it's usually the 1-1 or 1 and 2,
1 and 2,
and it's
yeah.
always the top teams moving on.
Yeah,
But
we've had massive
this,
shakeups this whole playoff series. Yeah,
yeah, and it's a
man,
lot of fun to watch, and this is
way more
peak
fun.
NBA basketball.
These
So
rookies, though, man, I don't know what it is. These rookies got something else in their blood. This playoff
yeah,
series,
yeah.
they've been
So
trying hard. But anyways, guys, stay tuned for the next pod. We got a lot more coming your way. We got the LA series, we got the Miami Boston series. So yeah, we got a lot more coming your way.
yeah, so we'll talk to you guys later. Thanks for tuning in. Appreciate it. We'll come to you with more videos too about the Raptors, where we're headed from here, and we'll talk to you guys later.
Yeah, peace out.